Hey guys, today I decided to do a quickie because we're on our way to the MAX show. Now that's in York, Pennsylvania. For many years I went to the MAX show in Monroeville out by Pittsburgh. Now it's a little bit closer, so I'm going to go check it out and stay tuned because I'm looking forward to showing you what I found at the MAX show this year. Now, what I want to cover is some more unusual bring back guns. They keep coming in. Ever since I did the video about bring back guns, I've been getting more and more people sending me bring back guns. So I want to show you two that came in this week that are a little bit unusual. But before I do that, let me just say a word about the belt buckle gun. Now, I'm used to getting snarky comments from people. I always get those. Often they're so bad that we have to remove them. And I don't mind that. But when I did the belt buckle gun, I actually had some regular subscribers who I respect, who gave me feedback that I made a huge mistake. They're all fake and I should probably redo the video. Well, first and foremost, I do appreciate your feedback, and I know you are watching out for my reputation, so thank you for that. But in fact, I've come across this before in terms of where everyone says they're all fake. It's hard to prove a negative, and so I went on a search to try to find out, are these real or are they not? And of course, the internet has a mixed bag, including Ian McCullum at Forgotten Weapons, who say there's a lot of people who say they're fake, there's a lot of people who say they're real. Probably somewhere in the middle is the truth. When I searched the internet, I did find, first of all, there are more than 5. There are a lot of people who say they were made in Eastern Europe in the 60s, and probably some were. And there's a lot of people who say they are real because their father or grandfather brought them home from the war. Plus, I found 3 museums who have them on display. So if I was duped, I'm in good company because even the NRA Museum, here you see a picture of one, they have a belt buckle gun. This one is a little bit unusual in that it only has 2 barrels and it's in .32 caliber. They have it in the original box. They have the name of Marquis, who's supposedly the man who made these. And they have it on display in their museum. Now, what I did say is I don't know anything about these, so I'm not going to weigh in as to they're real or they're not real. All I will say is I held it in my hands, and it is a real gun. It is also real cool and really well made. As far as the authentication, I had nothing to do with that. I was just showing it to all of you. People send me interesting guns. I share it with you. But as always, buyer beware. If you're looking into buying one of these, they're a lot of money, and it's possible it could be fake, so you want to make sure you get somebody who knows more about these than me to authenticate it if you're thinking about it. Most of us will never have that opportunity. It kind of reminds me of the time we did the RZM-PP. Here's a picture of that gun. I always knew about the RZM-PPKs, and I've shown you quite a few of those. Those are documented and well known. But I have heard from time to time, especially in Europe, that an RZM-PP exists. And people would say, what do you think about that? I said, well, I don't know. I can't say they do. I can't say they don't. And so I saw one on a European auction, an RZM-PP, and I thought, I'm just going to buy it. It didn't go for a whole lot of money. I wanted to buy it and examine it for myself and see if I could determine, do they exist or don't they exist? So I bought the gun from Germany and it came over, and if you watch that video, I said, lo and behold, as I took it apart, I realized it was refinished. It had straw small parts, which wasn't done. And so just the fact that it was refinished told me probably the marking was added and then the gun was refinished. And when I showed it to all of you, one of our subscribers wrote to me and said, I know who made those. Here's a picture of he was selling them back in the 60s and 70s. They were called fantasy guns. He just made up guns and he made them for special customers. And now slowly they're trickling their way through the collector community. But I was able to prove for a fact that this one was a fantasy gun made up by somebody after the war. So all that is to say, if you know more about these belt buckle guns other than everybody knows, please let me know. I would love to track down the truth about these belt buckle guns. And if you can send that to me, I'd be happy to do another video just to document what we find. Okay, now it's time to talk about a new gun that is a unusual bring back. It does come with these bring back papers. I'll show those to you. And this is a French Revolver. Now, Ian would love this, by the way. He loves French guns. I don't know much about them. I don't collect them, but because it came with capture papers, I thought I'd show it to all of you. It is a model 1892, so really that predates World War I, and yet it was brought back by a GI Remember the capture papers? I said they're almost always post-war. This is dated December of 1945. So after the war was over, I mentioned the GIs are sitting around. They did collect the guns from civilians, but in fact, this was probably captured by the German army when they went into France, because this is a French revolver. It would have been probably owned by a civilian. And just like most occupying armies, they probably said everybody in the town or village needs to turn in their weapons. Somebody turned this in, and a German probably took it home as a souvenir. So they were basically doing the same things the Americans were doing. Then when the Americans occupied Germany, they said, turn in your guns, and somebody turned this in. He got the proper paperwork to bring it home to the United States as a war souvenir. Let's take a closer look. So let's start out with the certificate. I mentioned the date here. It's post-war, and it again goes along with my theory that people grabbed these as souvenirs after the war and then brought them home. Zygmunt, and a Polish last name, so Polish-American. Hooray for the Polish Americans. And this is the pistol. It has a caliber 32.20. It's actually a French 8mm. I'm not sure of the exact cartridge. It is a Lebel model, and there is the serial number, and of course, signed by his commanding officer. The things I watch out for is that the type is not modern, and sure enough, this looks like an older typewriter, so I believe these are authentic. Now, it does drive people crazy that they're laminated, but often they're falling apart. So I understand that, but sometimes it's better just to put it in a loose bag so that it doesn't get hurt, but you can actually see the original more clearly. This is the holster itself, kind of dirty. It's already getting my gloves dirty because the leather is starting to crack and disintegrate here. So it's seen better days for sure. These would be individual ammo pouches to hold the ammo, and this is the gun itself. Let's take a quick look at this. I find these to be a little bit clumsy. I think much like a Nagant or a Webley, anyway, I find them to be a little clumsy compared to Smith & Wesson or a Colt Python or something like that. The action seems a little clumsy. But it does have a very hard trigger pull. I don't want to slam that down, but you see the center fire, and you can see the model 1892. So again, before the turn of the century. Wooden grips that are form-fitted and very well done. Again, that looks a lot like the Russian Nagant in terms of the way the grips fit. And this was made in a factory at Saint-Étienne. I know I slaughtered the German language, and I'm an equal opportunity offender because I'm also going to slaughter the French pronunciation, but I would say Saint-Étienne with the serial number that matches the capture paper. On this pistol, in order to load it, this pulls back. As you know, Colt will have a swing open, and then it actually doesn't click on the timing. And so I've never shot one. I don't know a lot about it. Some of you can write and tell me these shoot like a dream. But I'm just saying they seem a little clumsy and not as well made as some of the revolvers the more modern revolvers that I use today. Oh, before I put this away, there's a couple other things I wanted to mention. First of all, it does have the date on it right here, so 1924. So actually, this doesn't predate World War I. I was wrong about that, but I am sure it was picked up by the Germans when they occupied France and took it back into Germany. And also, usually I don't like it when GIs carve their initials on things, but this I thought was pretty cool. Check this out. So his Zygmunt would be ZW. And right here, you see ZW. So I know this all came together from Zygmunt, or Ziggy. We'll call him Ziggy. And then also, he carved his initials right here, ZW. So Ziggy marked it. He wanted to make sure nobody took his gun by accident. He knew which one was his because he put his initials on both pieces. My second bring back gun is a Tokarev. It's a Chinese Tokarev, but it was picked up in Vietnam. That's what makes it so unusual. It was brought back by now retired Major Robert Jordan. That's a picture of him in modern days, but he actually joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 1970. Let's talk a little bit about this gun, and then we'll talk a little bit about Robert and his military history. So this gun is, some people would say, a piece of junk. These guns are very unusual in that they are brought back, and what I've noticed, and please let me know if you know of any Korean War bringbacks that have papers. I've never seen a Korean War bringback, I mean papered bringback. And Vietnam papered guns are also very unusual because most people didn't bring them home. I mentioned before that a lot of the guns were full auto and you couldn't bring them back, and not a lot of people wanted one of these because typically the North Koreans or the North Vietnamese didn't have desirable guns. They had a lot of junk. I just attended an auction where there were 3 1911 Colts, but they had all been reworked and reworked and reworked again in the jungles of either Korea or North Vietnam. They went for a surprising amount of money, but the guns just looked horrible. And that's because they really had no parts. They didn't have factories to fix these, so a lot of these were just done with hand files and in somebody's basement or garage. They didn't have garages because they didn't have cars, but you know what I mean. So for example, let's take a look at this one. You can see how worn it is. I believe these are hand carved. The only way to really take the grips off, because you don't see any screw or any way to get in there. It looks like there's even some glue popped in there. You need to go in through the mag well to get the grips off. And this also is dated 1966. But the serial numbers don't match. You do see here model 20. And there's a mismatched slide, and again, put together from parts. I'm not going to shoot this, but I believe that it would probably shoot just fine, but it is a Tokarev model. The Soviets were the first one to use this model. They developed the Tokarev just before World War II got started and then used them throughout the war. After the war, they sold the design or the rights, the licensing rights to other countries, mostly communist countries, who made them for their war effort. And this was a Chinese-made 1966, went to North Vietnam, probably captured in South Vietnam by Robert Jordan in one of the conflicts that he was a part of. This is kind of the cool part of it, the war trophy registration. So these are the bring back papers. In this case, he has them in triplicate. You can see here it was cleared for customs from a Vietnamese customs. So to leave the country, he had to get this together for the export, and then of course get it into the United States. You see Robert was at least then stationed in Long Beach, California, I assume the Navy base. I mentioned before he joined in 1970, he joined the Marine Corps. His father was actually in the Army. He went through boot camp, and actually his father was at his graduation, and he said, I wanted to be like my father and join the military, but I chose the Marines because he felt they were a little more elite. And then he served in Vietnam for 1 year. From 1971 to 1972, he actually left in September. So you can see here he started doing this paperwork in July of 72 and then came home in September of 72. Actually, right here you can see length of service 71 to 72. I should cover up his Social Security number. As far as I know, he is still alive. You can see the manufacturer is Communist China, and he picked it up in July. So that's the second document for permission to bring this gun home, signed by his commanding officer. And this is the third piece of paper that he brought home, again, signed by an officer, a different one. And you can see the stamps from the Provost Marshal. But this is what the capture papers look like for bringing something home from Vietnam. We showed you one other, and that was for a semi-automatic rifle. This, of course, is for a semi-automatic pistol. A little bit more about Robert. We saw that he went through boot camp in 1970, went to Vietnam. He was in a helicopter assault unit and was a door gunner in Vietnam. I had a friend of mine who was in Vietnam, and he was a door gunner, and I knew him for a lot of years before I actually asked him, well, what did you do over there? And he said, I was a door gunner. I think he said it was an M60. You guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I said, did you shoot anybody? I think that's kind of insensitive, but I just cut to the chase. Did you shoot anybody? And he said, He said, I killed a lot of trees. The way he explained that, he said we would fly over the jungle and wait for the tracer rounds to come up from the jungle, and then we would just spray the trees. He said, so I would just ride around shooting my machine gun into the trees for a year and came home. He said, if I shot anybody, I never knew about it. Now back to Robert. When he came back from Vietnam, he somehow transferred to the Army, not sure why, but he did transfer to the Army, and it seems like he was in the military police for a while, and then several different units. He got promotions along the way. They tended to move him around. And he worked in an armored division. There was some indication he worked in the 101st Airborne. I saw that patch on his uniform at one point. And he retired in 2001 as a major. This is his picture at that time. And as far as I know, I said before, as far as I know, he is still alive. So Ziggy and Robert, thank you for your service. And to all of you who are serving right now, stay safe. Okay, I have what I would consider a bonus feature for all of you, and I hope you like it. We found this online, and we're probably going to be bringing a lot more of this to you, but check this out. We found these takedown videos. So we got one for the Tokarev, and check this out. I just love the animation here. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to put this together. Now on the software, of course, they go a little bit too fast for me, but you can push pause and go through it step by step. But you can see it. They take it down every screw, every pin, every spring, all the way down, and then, of course, they have to put it back together again. So, give me your comments on this particular video because we can do this for other guns, and I look forward to bringing these to you. But I found these takedown videos to be very helpful. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm always looking for new things to bring to you. And when I'm at the Mac Show, I'm going to find something special just to show you.